The dim light of the restaurant flickered, casting shadows across the room as I sipped my whiskey neat, my eyes fixed on the couple in the corner booth. My wife Emma looked radiant as always, her laughter ringing like a chime. It would have been a beautiful sight if it weren't for the man sitting across from her, his hand slipping under the table to caress her thigh. My grip on the glass tightened, the ice clinking softly as I swirled it around. I felt a knot of anger and heartbreak tighten in my chest, but I remained calm. I had suspected something for weeks. The late-night work meetings, the sudden guardedness with her phone, and the faint scent of cologne that wasn't mine lingering on her clothes. Now I had confirmation, and now I had a plan. For the past few months, I'd been meticulously preparing for this moment. It wasn't enough to confront her or throw accusations into the void. Emma had betrayed me, and her lover, a man whose name I now knew as Martin, had disrespected the sanctity of my marriage. They both deserved consequences, not vengeance born out of fury, but justice crafted with patience and precision. I'd hired a private investigator to gather evidence, photographs, text messages, dates, locations. I had it all in a neatly organized file. It wasn't for legal proceedings. No, this was personal. I wasn't looking to ruin her life, just to ensure she felt the weight of her choices. The next morning, I set my plan into motion. Step 1, exposure. I started with Martin. A quick search on social media had revealed he was married to a woman named Claire. She seemed sweet, her posts filled with pictures of their 2 children and happy family outings. It wasn't right to keep her in the dark. I arranged an anonymous meeting at a coffee shop, bringing the file with me. Claire arrived, her face full of apprehension. I hated being the bearer of bad news, but she deserved the truth. When I slid the file across the table, her hands trembled as she opened it. Tears welled up in her eyes as she scanned the photos and read the messages. I offered her a tissue, and she accepted silently. After a few moments, she spoke, her voice shaky but determined. "Thank you for telling me," she said. "I need some time to process this, but I appreciate your honesty." We exchanged numbers and agreed to keep in touch. Claire had her own plans for Martin, and together we ensured his world wouldn't remain unscathed. Step 2, confrontation. That evening, I prepared a romantic dinner at home. Emma walked in, her face lighting up when she saw the effort I'd put into the table setting. Candlelight flickered off the crystal glasses, and a bouquet of her favorite flowers sat in the center. "What's the occasion?" she asked, smiling as she kissed me on the cheek. "Just wanted to spoil my beautiful wife," I replied, masking my disdain with a practiced smile. The dinner started pleasantly enough. We talked about mundane things, work, the neighbors, the upcoming holidays. But as dessert was served, I decided it was time. "Emma," I began, my tone calm but firm, "I've been thinking a lot about us lately." Her smile faltered slightly. "Oh? What about us?" I reached under my chair and pulled out the same file I'd shown Claire, placing it on the table. I slid it toward her. "I think you should see this." Her face paled as she opened the file, page after page. Her betrayal stared back at her in vivid detail. Her hands began to shake, and she looked up at me, tears brimming in her eyes. I can explain," she stammered. "There's no need," I said, my voice steady. "I know everything. I've known for weeks. This dinner isn't about explanations or excuses. It's about consequences." She looked at me, panic etched across her face. "Please, let me make this right. It was a mistake. A horrible mistake." "Mistakes are accidental," I replied. "This was deliberate, repeated, and I can't forgive that." Step 3, resolution. I'd already spoken to a divorce lawyer and had the papers ready. I slid them across the table. "Next, sign these," I said. I'm not asking for anything other than my dignity. You can keep the house, the car, whatever. I just want to move on. Her tears fell freely now, but I remained resolute. She'd made her choice, and now I was making mine. As she signed the papers, I felt a strange sense of relief. The weight of her betrayal had been lifted, and I could finally breathe again. But there was still one last piece to the puzzle. Step 4: accountability. Claire and I had decided to confront Martin together. We arranged to meet him at his office, ensuring he couldn't avoid the encounter. When he saw us both walk in, his face turned a shade of crimson that was almost comical. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice shaky. "This is your reckoning," Claire said, her voice steady and full of conviction. "We know everything, and you're going to face the consequences." I handed him a copy of the file, watching as his bravado crumbled with each passing second. He stammered apologies, excuses, anything to salvage the situation, but we weren't interested in his words. Claire had already begun divorce proceedings, and Martin's career, built on a facade of integrity, was about to take a serious hit. Walking away from that confrontation, I felt a sense of closure. Emma and Martin had made their choices, and now they were paying the price. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life and ensuring I could move forward without the shadow of their betrayal looming over me. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding. I threw myself into work, reconnected with old friends, and even started dating again. The scars of betrayal didn't fade overnight, but they became a part of my story, a reminder of my resilience and strength. And as I sat in my new apartment one evening, sipping whiskey and watching the city lights twinkle outside, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace.